And welcome to the That's So Craven Fulham podcast. It's just me and Daddy tonight because at the end of the day, Jack couldn't do it for unforeseeable circumstances, but we cannot not talk about a 5-0 thwalloping, whatever adjectives you want to use. So for now, we're just doing a quick run, our quick takes, and who better to join me than the man who spawned me, Father Elton? How are you?
I'm very well. I was always a bit nervous about how that intro was going to really roll, but I think I, I think I've lived through
I mean, you've been here since day one, so if anything, no one's more prepared. No one could be more
it.
prepared. And speaking of preparation, Dad, what has Silver done here? This is next level stuff. Is he
I,
feeding them new types of hay? Like,
I thought you were about to say, "Dad, where did you get that shirt?"
it's a lovely shirt. It's a lovely shirt. If only, I mean, if you want to watch on YouTube, you know we go live. But no,
Mhm.
that's like, look, we'll do statistical analysis when we have Jack on next. But let's just go purely into narrative. Talk to me psychologically. What has he said to these players? It's 5-0 against West Ham. This is crazy.
I had a little glimpse of Silver's face about halfway through the game when we were already three, maybe 4-0 up. And you know how Silver's always got that not so well disguised, super angry
Yeah.
face where he's just got so much going on his head. And it's almost like he was wrong footed by how well this team is doing. And he hasn't got angry mode anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, it's one of those things when you're pressing so hard and you just know it's a poor run of luck because really this team is a competitive squad and they should
Mhm.
be doing it. And everything you try just doesn't come off, doesn't come off, doesn't come off. And then it does.
I mean, like,
Um,
is it just like his blind faith has just turned into the lottery now, or has it? Okay, honestly, Jack left out a question in the last pod that I wanted to like bring up to you directly because I feel like you're the best guy to do it. Like, have you ever had a coach say something to you to like bring you out of a funk, or at least like Jimenez? Now he's gone from being like a silly old man to like a happy little boy. He's just an entirely new
mm,
person. He's
it
incredible.
really is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what do you say? Like,
I think it's undeniable that a good coach, a good manager is that kind of sprinkling of special something that brings the I don't know, the kind of
je
the
ne sais quoi.
special. No, not even that. It's just like it just brings the topping. And these guys are all elite professional athletes, and for the most part, you'd think they don't even really need to be prepared. They should be able to bring it and do it for themselves. And I don't know, it's just like so many moving parts and so many things that make magic happen. Um, it's almost like the harder you try when it's going bad, the
Mm,
the less likely it's ever going to work. And okay, here's a question: if
hit
you
me.
if you go back, what was the moment in the last 2 or 3 weeks? What was the moment when this all changed?
It's got to be backstage. It's got to be in the changing room for me because Jimenez came out in the last game. For me, an entirely new player. Like I have not seen that guy. Not even just his posture, but like his just aggression, his positioning. Like not this game, but the game before, he was perfect. And even now, like I don't think he was even necessarily trying as hard. He just had excellent positioning. He was attentive all game, and he's. I mean, his header that he scored. I mean, we can just go straight into goals. Like his header that he scored was just so assured, so confident. I was watching the replay before we even did this, and just thought that he was potentially maybe drawing a defender in. Nah, he is just there, cool as a cucumber. and just strikes it absolutely perfectly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's got to be your confidence, but like, again, how do you find it?
well, I think what you're still suggesting is that Silver's made this happen. I think Silver's kept the heart rate up of the squad by
Mm,
keep telling him that he believes in them. It's going to come. It's going to come. It's going to come. But then I think it's kind of pure happenstance that Jimenez happens to be in the right moment. A couple of games back, scores a goal. I'm trying to. I'm sure it's a results based thing.
must be.
That's because it's not just Jimenez that has lifted. Everyone has lifted around them. And
Mm,
I kind of suspected that this might unlock the likes of Harry Wilson that could inject something back into Willian, who hasn't been having a great season. You can see it's still there. I will not buy that he's for the knackers yard.
nah,
It's
neither.
still there,
Mm,
but it was in a bit of a funk. Pereira not having a great season at all, but we know what he can do, um, and it's just sparked. Something has happened, and they've all lit up. I'm wondering whether TC starting and
I
being part
was,
of
yeah.
the middle has actually been sort of a really integral part of this.
For
You know,
me, it's either that or it's Iwobi on the right, because
yeah, yeah,
ever since Iwobi on the right,
yeah,
it's like we have a new venom within us. There's something really magical, like genuinely magical about the way that
mm,
we're playing, and I mean, it's so weird to think about this team just slightly structured in a different way, just to be able to be so creative. I mean, even everything down to, I thought Tosin was
yeah, fantastic.
fantastic. And I
Yeah,
thought Bassi as well. I mean, it still feels a little bit like preschool buddies. They've just decided they're best friends and are ready to take on the world with each other, but haven't fully. Like, I reckon 3 months of this, and that is a serious centre back partnership, and just a young centre back part. I'm so excited. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
this is next level.
I think you're right. I think it's easy to just because we're suddenly scoring goals. It's easy to think and believe that all of the kind of positive changes have happened up front to create
Mm,
goals. But I actually 100%, 120% believe that Silver being brave enough to park Tim Ream, maybe
mm,
not forever, but for some time. And I guess it culminated with the availability and fitness of Tosin. And that moving Bassi to the left, Tosin coming in, pretty much hitting it really good form straight from the off, and then Kenny Tete being injected into the side in the last couple of weeks. All of those things have actually kind of created a bit of a Fulham of old. I mean, recent old, but you know what I
mm.
mean. And I 100% also believe Sam and Wobie going to the right. I think that's made enormous differences. Yeah,
It's
I agree.
really a game changer. Like, he for me, he's gone from like decent center midfield to top class. Like, ever since he's moved to that position, it's truly been like a revelation. I mean, we can briefly break down this game. Oh, no, no.
One more thing.
You can give me
Robinson.
three more. You can give me three more
That
things, mate. Jackson, we're
well,
here.
I may not have it, but Robinson since the international break has been
Oh,
excellent.
no,
He's
couldn't
been
agree more.
really good.
Can agree.
Yeah,
Even
really, really
Castagna,
good.
even Castagna,
Yeah, yeah.
like actually, one thing as well that I really appreciate is, I mean, I still think we need a little bit more of it, but I am loving the way that Silva is approaching just rotating the squad as well throughout the game. It was so genius to bring on Harry Wilson directly at halftime. I know that was partly done because of Willian having a niggle, but
Yeah.
even still, like, it just felt like like his decision making flowed to a point where we were just in it for the
Yeah.
entire game. I mean, we were like pushing
Mm.
until like the last
I
90
agree.
minutes when Willian, sorry, not Willian, when Vinicius fluffed it. But aside from that, I mean, I couldn't necessarily pick a flaw really in the way that we played.
Mm.
like,
No,
like, what do
absolutely.
you even say? What do you say?
I mean, I did feel pretty confident going in. You look at the table, you look at West Ham, you know, they're quite a number of points ahead of us, in
Mm,
not so much points, but positions ahead of us, and they've had a better season than we've had to date.
yeah.
But I really did feel that something was happening and that it wasn't a flash in the pan. I thought we had turned a corner, and I remember saying last week that for me this game is a bit of a landmark. How we go here really determines whether or not we've actually had a change of form,
Mm,
and that's a
so
it's a
true.
it's a really really big result, massive result. And there's some interesting things going forward now. We've got Newcastle coming up, who obviously were flying last year and started very well, and suddenly they look a bit vulnerable. They've got injuries, they've got really poor form, and they've been beaten by what I think Bournemouth beat them, didn't they? Just recently.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't know. I've just more or less been following us as closely as possible, and Man United from like the brief bits that I get, because when a squad is in that much peril, you just hear about it. But yeah, no, that Newcastle game that's coming up, that was a game that I was dreading a couple of weeks ago, and now that is becoming a tastier and tastier encounter. Like, I mean, oh, it's. I mean, you don't want to get your hopes up, do you? But like, I mean, I can't really see a reason why we can't at least get a goal or two on them. And then if we can I mean, Polina as well. We haven't even mentioned Polina. Like, Polina was an animal. Like, I feel like he's potentially even getting better, or just his precision of tackling is just second to none, isn't it? Like, and he just allows so much time for everybody else to be creative around it. It's, I mean, it's shades of
Well,
last season. I just love the squad.
you,
I just,
you know what? You know what's really encouraging is that, again, I'll ask the question: who had a bad game for Fulham yesterday? And I think it's pretty difficult to pick if anyone did at all. Um, and Polina, if you think about the game he had, he actually did a lot, but he didn't stand out.
no.
Maybe his bar is so high. Maybe we're just used to him doing so much and carrying an awful lot on his own shoulders. But um, I mean, he had a pretty good game. He did a lot. He did a lot around the ground. Put his body around, threw his body around a lot. It just going back to something Steve Reynolds, following on
Yeah. Hear
the
me.
live stream, said there, and he mentions, you know, why the players we were not happy with 2 weeks ago suddenly hitting it big time. The Jimenez goal to start us off. Was it the Jimenez goal to start us off, or the use of Kearney and Iwobi? And we've kind of talked about that, but I really do think it's actually a number of things, but it's very clear to me that the whole team is lifted. And if
Mm,
I kind of was wishing for it last week when I was thinking forward here, but it's very clear that you look at the little back heels that people are doing, the
oh, they're just
little,
having fun.
yeah, they're really having fun. And even though one would argue, Pereira, Willian are probably technically more skillful. Harry Wilson's got a bit of flair about him as well, and I think it's bringing it out of him. And
Mm,
Harry Wilson's got that goal that he hit last night, the third or fourth goal that he scored. He's got that in him, but
mm,
for so many times over the last weeks, he hasn't even looked like he had the desire to put his
mm,
boot or wrap his boot around an opportunity like that, and
mm.
suddenly he's up for it. It's amazing, isn't it? The how things change for a team, and suddenly they're riding wave. Like I said, they're having fun. They're having real fun.
Yeah, okay. I've got I've got a pontificate that that I've just been working on, just on the basis of you saying that. So I think at least this is just my own pure speculation. I think Iwobi coming into that front three setup has done wonders for Jimenez. And just allowing Jimenez to regain his confidence and regain his form and kind of rediscover himself. Jimenez plays in a really, really fun way. Like, you shouldn't compare because it's like comparing exes to your current girlfriend. But if you compare it to Mitrovic, this like really brute force striker, strong, kind of ugly, not necessarily as in like in play style, not as in the person. Lovely man. Actually, no, fuck him. He went away. No, not a lovely man. But in the play style, aggressive and very kind of like
brutish
yeah, just like very like ogre like kind of thing. Like you don't really want to be around him. Whereas Jimenez is just so fun and there's so much vibrancy when he plays. And then that vibrancy is felt on people like Willian, because then Willian plays with such vibrancy. And then
no,
that
100%.
yeah, maybe that's potentially what it is. And I attribute so much of that to Iwobi coming into the squad. And I'll be the first, and Bassi as well. I'll be the first person to put my hand up and say I wasn't 100% sure about Iwobi. Didn't necessarily sell me at Everton, and when he first came into the squad, I wasn't completely sold. But I mean, I think he's been so important to this current development in the team, and it's just so fun to watch, isn't it? Like, it's nice when you're like, I mean, well, we've had Fulham teams that have been really, really successful, but not necessarily as fun. And man, if we keep playing like this, it's just a joy to watch, isn't it?
Did you, just stepping aside, did you see what Bournemouth did to Man U?
Oh yeah, no, I did hear about that. I mean, Man U. I mean, I'm getting it basically every day at the moment. Like Man U is. I mean, you talk about poor squad harmony and just the very little joy within a team. It's so. I mean, obviously because they can get by on individual brilliance, but if this team, for example, plays against Man U in the near future, like, I mean, I don't. Is there a team that like we can potentially get undone by if we bring this squad directly to him? I mean, obviously we lost against Liverpool. Man City's
we've got a
always
game. We've got a game pretty soon against Arsenal. I think that's not going to be easy.
yeah,
Man City aren't having everything their own way at all.
yeah.
But anyway, do we want to talk about the other goals, or do we just want to?
Sure. Now
Do we just want to froth about how much we love Fulham scoring 5 goals?
Father, I follow you to the ends of the earth. Where do you want to go? So we have him in this goal.
Oh, we don't have to go into detail. Okay, so we have the Jimenez goal at what's about 20 minutes in, and then the second goal is Willian. So Willian plays the ball across the goal. Who is it? I think Iwobi has a shot. It's a bit soft.
Iwobi has a shot, yeah, and then
keeper parries it out, and
Pereira recovers.
And then the ball spills out to Pereira,
classic.
Who plays it back in to Iwobi, who I don't think meant to let the ball go through. He tried to have a shot, muffed it completely, but sent the keeper the wrong way, which actually creates an opportunity for Willian to pretty easily put it past the keeper. But it's actually a very well worked goal, and we were overwhelming them. And you just knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, like I mean, it's a Jackson Pollock, isn't it? It's a bit chaotic to watch being made, but like when you watch it back on the replay, it looks beautiful and it has an air of serendipity about it,
Yeah. And just to step aside here, because I think I feel like reacting with the people following along.
Hit it.
Steve says Mitro had an ego. Jimenez seems to enjoy football, and it's a friendly squad having fun. If you want to see what football is about, watch Sam and Tom on back of the net versus United.
Well, we're not plugging any other content bar ours, so but
well, you normally do.
That's true. That's true.
I think there's so much to that, and then I like this squad when they start having fun, they start loving each other's goals and effort, and yeah, I think isn't it interesting that maybe I think Silver is quite clever in terms of the type of man he wants in his squad. I think it speaks volumes.
Mm,
I think he wants good eggs, good people, positive people, and I think if you gave him the choice, I'd say Mitro would never, ever, ever be someone that Silver would select or,
completely
or
agree.
go out and buy.
Completely
You know,
agree.
it just just not. Um, not that Mitro wasn't a team man, but I think you want people who are always positive,
Mm.
buoying each other along and actually having fun.
It's
Uh,
impossible to think about it, but can you imagine if Jimenez was in a team with Mitrovic? Like, I imagine Mitrovic, being successful or not. I imagine Mitrovic would not be helpful for that boy's mental health to actually get him back to full swing. Yeah, yeah, I think you're 100% right though. There's so much positivity going around at the moment. Yeah, you could even argue that Tosin used to be probably the only one that you would think might not necessarily be giving out the best vibes
mhm.
because they've kind of been
Yep,
teetering
yep,
on leaving.
yep.
That I
And
mean,
not only that. I'm a bit divided about this because I know Jack is quite vocal in a positive way about the effect that Tosin has on the back four. He's very, very vocal.
mm,
He tends to be a bit grumpy. He's a bit of a blamer. He's a bit of a
yeah,
pointer,
yeah,
when shit goes wrong, which
mm,
I don't like seeing. It's kind of almost like the old school goalkeeper yelling, and Pickford's still got a bit of that in him,
yeah,
screaming at the back line. That's just bullshit. I think
yeah. No, I agree.
I don't. That's a horrible environment to play in.
Yeah,
Um, but to Jack's point, what Tosin is generally screaming about is us keeping our shape and
mm,
actually, play. We never get we set good offside traps when he plays, and we never get caught out, and no one gets left behind.
mm.
Um, but and Tosin can be a pretty grumpy puppy, and I saw him at the end of the game very animated
Oh
with
yeah.
his arm around. I can't remember who it was, but I like seeing that because I hope he stays. God, I mean,
Mm.
I was one of his biggest critics, but I think in the last couple of weeks he's been fantastic, really, really fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think his biggest thing was that he was pretty assured that he wasn't going to get game time, and kind of fair enough as well as with the trajectory of the squad at that period. But I mean, to your point as well, he looked so happy yesterday, and not Tosin, Bassi entering and being like a really really fun new partner for him with so much
Mm.
vibrancy. I mean, the second Tosin scored a goal, which we should talk about because it's a
Yeah, yeah,
banger.
yeah,
I mean, Bassi gave him the biggest hug. He was all
yeah.
over him, and like,
I
it's
was
just
very
really nice
happy.
to see.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that unusual for Tosin to score. He's very, very good
Mm,
offset pieces because he's 6'4" piece of timber, and he's very, very good in the air.
yeah.
And but I just think the timing of that goal couldn't be better as well. He's
Oh,
been out for a long time. There was a cloud hanging over him. No one really knew where his head was, and I think it was a very open secret that he didn't want to be
mm,
at Fulham anymore.
mm,
And it's almost like if you can be seduced back into playing with a squad that's really enjoying their football, and then you have some success and you're having a great partnership. I mean, it's bloody good for him anyway. Even if he
mm.
does want to leave, it's a great shop front and shop window for him.
Yeah.
Um, so I could not be happier that he's going well and things are going well for him. Great goal,
Well,
couldn't
yeah.
agree more.
Let's briefly talk about that goal as well because in the lead up to that as well, I think Bassi actually does some really really good hustle and bustle and just actually allows Tosin a lot of space to just when that ball gets whipped through, just to crash through in a way that only he can. Comes off Suchek's head. The ball's just going so fast that there's no stopping it. It comes in like a freight train. And again, like you don't make those kind of like raucous like power goals if you're not at full confidence going full throttle.
and very up for it. Very up for it.
Yeah. I mean, because like honestly, let's face it, you're going that hard into anyone. Like if you knock each other in the head, you literally get a Jimenez, don't you? You can crack a skull, but like he is so good. And for me as well, as we've just discussed, the icing on top of it is just Bassi as well, just being so excited, and just everyone in general is just so excited to see everybody score. It's just nice.
So 3-0 going into halftime. Did you think this Fulham team could still fluff their lines, or did you think that there was no way back for West Ham at this point?
I mean, it's a good question. I think at the time okay, I'll be honest. I watched this. I didn't watch this live because it was at like 1 a.m. my time. So I watched it on like the replay, and I knew the result, which is never necessarily fun. But like at the same time, the game itself was so fun. So at the like it would it's really hard for me to think about.
Can I say that I think one of the things I think we know now for sure is that Silva doesn't park the bus.
No,
he just motors on, and he wants us to score 10, and he very much wants us to actually totally kill teams off. So in doing that, you always run the risk that you might get stretched yourself, and in trying to score more and more and more goals as the game expands, if they've got more legs than us, because it really did open up. It opened up very early in the second half. It was incredibly open. So there's always the risk that, you could leak a couple. But, what a wonderful result. Another clean sheet, not only 5 goals, but plus another clean sheet. I mean, Leno made a couple of decent little saves, but really didn't have that much to do. And that's a credit. Well, that's a credit to the back four plus Polini again. Go on. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say there were a couple of moments where like West Ham did have quite a few chances. I mean, Bowen had a couple of decent attempts on goal, but again, just Bert Leno's Bert Leno, isn't he? He's just the man. He's just Stonewall and Germanic as anything, Like
yep. So let's talk about the fourth goal, 59th minute. TC to Wilson, pretty lovely
beautiful
ball.
Beautiful cross.
I guess we've almost, become used to and expectant of that sort of ball. But Wilson takes it incredibly comfortably, and you know what he's going to do straight away. And he puts his head down, picks his spot, puts his head down, and wraps his foot around it. Completely unsavable. Top bins, side netting. Pretty great goal.
I mean, I think a lot of people do kind of take for granted and forget that we did get Wilson for a steal off of Liverpool because they essentially stole Harvey Elliott off of us. So Wilson has never been a slouch, in my opinion. He's always been relatively young, and he's never kind of been the full product, but there's always been that element of like magic there within him. I mean, coming back from injury, from last season, he had such a long way to go that we've kind of forgotten the magic of when we were in the championship with him. But he seems to really, really, really be finding it back, doesn't he, at the moment? Like he's great. I love him.
Yep. Cole makes a good point here, following on the live stream as well. Jimenez run helps open up a space for Wilson, and isn't it interesting that because everyone is so up for it, creative, looking to make little runs, and not even dummy runs, just genuinely offering opportunities. It's just incredible how it opens up and causes defenses enormous problems. And then, sorry, Sam, you're going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say it's just mature style of playing, isn't it? Because if everyone's just trying to be the hero and everyone's playing individually, then you're not playing as a team. But then if you are playing and everyone's playing for each other and truly opening up the game, so anyone and everyone can score at any given time, you just have to be popped in the best position or allowed to be in the best position. Then you just get 5-0 wins, don't you?
Well, this is all sort of riffing off the same theme. You know, what's Harrison Reed playing that ball, that Tom Kearney ball for the last
Oh,
goal? I mean,
excellent.
that you don't kind of expect that of him, but clearly, if we're all up for scoring 6, 7, 8, 9 goals, I'm going to have a go. So he puts Wilson in with an
Mm,
absolutely beautiful. I mean, it was very, very wide open, and the
mm,
game was quite stretched at that point. Um, and again, in terms of Steve's reading my mind here as we speak. Um, and he says the fifth goal says it all. Wilson could have got two, but played Vinny in, and that's precisely what I was about to say. And to your point, Sam, this is a team that enjoys each other's success,
mm,
and I mean, I think Wilson could easily have scored a second goal there, but Vinny made the run, was completely on. Wilson draws the keeper, times it beautifully, just lays it across for a simple tap in from Vinny, and then couldn't be happier for the man. And
yeah.
so it's just like everyone's getting drip fed with a bit of juice at the moment, and it's keeping them buoyant and feeling like they're part of it. I mean, pretty fortunate to be scoring 5 goals a game. That
Yeah.
and it's not your main striker scoring 2 penalties and 3 goals and one other player scoring a header. This
Mm,
is generally shared around. Everyone's getting involved. If you look at the assists, there's a lot of people contributing
mm,
to these goals happening at the moment. And that, I mean, look, Silva's a good manager, but in order to execute your plans, you've got to have a fit squad. You've got to have everyone in good form so that when you do make a change and a substitution at a certain point, the people you bring on come on in good form and do things, right?
mm.
So it's a combo of many, many things. Go.
And also as well, just trust. And I feel
Yeah.
that all of these guys trust each other now, and it's like I think at the start of the season, not that there wasn't trust there, but I think you did see a very stark difference between when like the new players were on versus some of the old guard. That's why we kind of kept on pushing for things like, oh, let's get Vinicius back in the squad and let's maybe get Bobby Decordova Reed back in the squad. Like the squad just needed time to essentially learn each other's movements and just essentially just familiarize themselves with each other. And I feel like now there is just so much there's just so much understanding in such a short space of time. And I think that's really just because they like each other. It's
Yeah.
just
No, true.
nice. It's
Sure.
so nice. It's
I
just
mean, it sounds like a really simple and dumb, basic thing to say, but so many teams, particularly the very, very big teams, I think you cannot assume that people like each other. There's so
I
many
think
egos
everyone
in
at
the
Man
room.
U hates each other.
Yeah, yeah. And there was a time at Chelsea. I don't know what it's like now. There's a time at Chelsea where that was pretty obvious as well.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um,
Oh, I
yeah.
mean do we have too much else to say on this? We just wanted to do a quick one tonight just
Yeah.
to get on and say our thoughts.
I thought I was trying to protect your early bedtime, Sam, and but once again, there's always plenty to talk about. But
No
I
respect.
I know, yeah, I know that Jack he couldn't make it tonight, but I'm sure he'd definitely like to jump on and talk about this in more detail. So it's possible that we or you two might go again tomorrow night.
Mm.
Um, But
Did you have a
yeah,
question?
sorry.
Did you have a question? You're just kind of riffing now.
No. I was actually I was about to say something, and I was trying to read. I was trying to read and listen to you at the same time. Um, but I'm going to read out a comment here from Steve on the live stream. He says, "Interesting when they show the bench, Silva up and down, but Boa's watching the live action and talking to Marco." Yeah, actually, I did have a comment to make. Jack mentioned something last night, and he said, you know, in the last couple of games where we've scored so many goals, wouldn't it be great to have some youngsters on the bench that you could introduce into the game? Imagine dropping, Luke Harris in when the team's playing so confidently. We're completely bullying the opposition. They've pretty much given up. We're knocking the ball around so confidently, and everyone's on such a high. What a great time
Don't
to
tease me,
be
Daddy.
introduced.
Don't tease me. I can
Yeah,
see it. If I can see it, I want it. And like
yeah.
that's no, you've given me that inception right now, and now that's all I want. I mean, look, I think realistically, we gotta front up as hard as we possibly can for Newcastle. But after that, I mean, if we beat Newcastle, it's anything can happen this season in the Premier League, and anything can just happen in general because it's a crazy league. If we beat Newcastle next game, the boys are just going to be on cloud nine, just whole other level of just confidence and assuredness, and also they're just going to be buzzing. I mean, that is the time you start introducing these young guys because it becomes a bit of a failsafe, doesn't it? Because
Mm.
if everyone's playing, then it's literally like letting your little brother like come on and play. It's like letting little Miles, my nephew, just come kick a ball because everyone's having fun. Like you just want to get them involved. And the more you actually get those guys involved, the earlier you do it, the more you blood them early, especially when everything's going great. Like you don't want to bring young players into a squad that's bickering and it's just ugly. There's too much pressure on a youngin. But at this stage with this squad right now, I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, just imagine if Tony Khan is held to his what we believe to be his word, and some sort of deal he's made with Marco, and we do sign two or three big players in January with this squad, and you introduce two or three big players. You can start to really dream about um, us really going somewhere in not only this year, but into the future. Really,
It's interesting, isn't it? Because for me, it's actually less about the type of like the players that we get. For me, it's just all down to just keeping Silva because the man's just proven time and time again that if you give him time, he will come up with the goods. And the more players that like, I don't even think we necessarily need to be finding like the highest quality players. I think we just need to just be listening to what Marco Silva wants. It's that Rick
yeah,
Rubin thing. It's like uh you can make a song for everybody else, but really the best thing that you can do is just make a song for yourself. If you just let Silva just make the team for himself, I think I think that's the winner. And
yeah,
oh man, I just want to keep him for like the next 20 years at this, right?
yeah. Sure. I mean, yeah, we have to be realistic about people like Joao Polina. As much as he
Mm,
loves playing at Fulham, and I think he genuinely does,
I think
it's
so.
it's extremely unlikely. The only way we keep him is if other teams look at him and for whatever reason he's getting old. They don't want to pay that sort of money. I don't believe any of that, by the way. But any of those things, and they suddenly and somehow the planets don't line up, and they we don't get the big offer that we think we might, and then somehow he stays. I don't believe that for a moment. He's going to go. So we do have to backfill and find some other players. And as much as I'm loving what Jimenez is doing, I'm not yet over the line that he's a 25 goal a year striker
Yeah.
for this team in the Premier League. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. He probably needs even better service than we can provide him for that
Mm,
to be a thing.
yeah.
But so that tells me that regardless of how good this is, I think we need to stick to those plans, which I hope are in place to buy in some
Well,
more
Silver's at least
skills.
proven to me. I mean, Japolina is a Silver signing, and before we knew who Japolina was, we didn't expect for him to be the most beloved Fulham player in the past 20 years for me.
Mm.
Like, so I trust in, even if we lose Japolina, as terrible as that could potentially be, I trust that if Silver is allowed to pick who he wants, it will probably be okay. Like, it might even be different, it might be the same, but I trust that Silver's vision would actually kind of see us through. And you know what? If that happens and Jalpolino wins a Champions League at Bayern Munich and we have a suitable replacement, I mean, how can I be too bummed about that? I want the world for Jalpolino. Just don't leave mid-season is my whole point. I need I
Yeah,
need I need a preseason to get used to Jalpolino not being there and cry myself to sleep a couple of times.
and think about what you want to do with all the shirts you've got with his name on the back.
I mean, my nephews will get bigger. That's all I can think of. Like, just palm it off. Just say, just don't worry about it. You can't deal with the hurt.
Okay, should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, I think we should.
Otherwise, you got to get to bed. Jack's got to have something to talk about.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think the longer we actually keep going on this, the more Jack's actually going to get annoyed that he wasn't a part of it. So let's keep it chaotic and Sam and Elsony, and then before we do any in-depth analysis, we just wrap up. Father, I've had a lot of fun with you. This has been
yep.
fun. Do you have anything else to plug? Anything else you're enjoying in your life aside from going away? Anything new? Anything you want to tell the viewers about? This is open season.
No, I think we should wrap it up. I could talk a lot, but I generally do. No one needs to hear it.
uh,
I think we should wrap it up there and call it a night.
all right, sounds good. Thank you all. Bless you all for listening. This has just been a little quick one, but we hope you enjoyed it. We like feeding you something different. And as always, we'll see Jack on the next pod. And for the foreseeable future, come on, you whites.